Kindred, 1979, by Octavia E. Butler is a groundbreaking novel that fuses science fiction, historical fiction, and slave narrative into a deeply personal and socially critical work. Through the story of Dana Franklin, an African-American woman from 1976 Los Angeles who is involuntarily transported back in time to the antebellum South, Butler examines racism, power, identity, complicity, survival, and historical memory. The novel explores the psychological and physical tolls of slavery through the speculative device of time travel, making the past viscerally present and urgent. The frame: Dana's injury. The novel opens in June 1976. Dana Franklin, a 26-year-old African-American writer, wakes in a hospital with her arm amputated. The story is told in flashback as she recounts the mysterious events leading to her injury. First trip to the past, the river. On June 9, Dana experiences disorientation and nausea and finds herself on a riverbank in Maryland, circa 1815. She sees a white boy, Rufus Whalen, drowning and instinctively rescues him. His mother assumes she's trying to hurt him, and Dana faces a gun, only to be suddenly pulled back to 1976. Dana's white husband, Kevin, is stunned by her story. He's skeptical but supportive. Their unease grows when Dana is drawn back again. Second trip: the fire. Dana next appears in Rufus's bedroom, where the boy has set fire to the drapes. She puts out the flames and learns she is in antebellum Maryland, a slaveholding state. She discovers that Rufus is the son of a white plantation owner, Tom Whalen. She also meets Alice, a free black girl, and Sarah, a cook enslaved on the Whalen plantation. Dana realizes she is repeatedly drawn back in time to save Rufus, her white ancestor, because he must survive to father her black ancestor with Alice. This realization brings a moral and existential crisis. When Dana is beaten by a slave patroller, she nearly dies, and the trauma pulls her back to 1976. Third trip: Kevin joins Dana. Dana prepares for the next trip. When it happens, Kevin grabs her and is transported too. Rufus has broken his leg. Dana nurses him while Kevin tries to maintain the facade of a white master. They witness the cruelty of plantation life, including whippings, forced labor, and sexual abuse. Kevin, a white man, experiences the past very differently. While Dana must submit to the dehumanization of slavery, Kevin is granted privilege and freedom. Their relationship becomes strained as they try to navigate the social roles of master and slave. When Rufus recovers, Dana tries to escape but is captured and whipped. Kevin is forced back to 1976, but Dana is left behind. Fourth trip: Dana alone. Dana is now alone in the past for months. She observes Rufus's transformation from a sensitive boy into a violent, entitled slaveholder, conditioned by his upbringing and the institution of slavery. She grows close to Alice, who suffers tragedy after tragedy. Her free husband is sold into slavery. She is raped by Rufus, and she is forcibly enslaved. Alice eventually bears Rufus's children, including Hagar, Dana's great-grandmother. Dana tries to mitigate the horrors around her, teaching slaves to read and challenging the Whalens when possible. But she is always constrained by the threat of violence and death. Eventually, Kevin returns, having waited 5 years in his timeline. They reunite and flee to the north, only to be drawn back again. Fifth trip: Alice's suicide and Dana's final break. On Dana's final visit, Alice commits suicide, devastated by Rufus's lies and oppression. Rufus tries to force Dana to take Alice's place, as companion, scribe, and concubine. When he attempts to rape Dana, she kills him with a knife. Killing Rufus severs the bond and she is violently returned to 1976, losing her arm in the process, literally leaving a part of herself in the past. Character analysis: Dana Franklin. Dana is a modern black woman who becomes an involuntary witness to slavery. Intelligent, resourceful, and empathetic, she is forced into a role of survival rather than resistance. Her time in the past reshapes her identity and reveals the deep psychic scars of slavery, both ancestral and contemporary. She represents the link between past and present, embodying the trauma passed down through generations. Her arm's amputation symbolizes the irreparable cost of reconciling with history. Rufus Whalen. Rufus is a complex and tragic figure. As a child, he is impressionable and kind but becomes increasingly corrupted by power, racism, and entitlement. His obsession with Dana and Alice reveals his internalization of patriarchal and white supremacist norms. He believes love is possessive, which leads him to control and abuse. Rufus illustrates the insidious effects of slaveholding ideology, transforming even well-meaning individuals into oppressors. Alice Greenwood. Alice is perhaps the most tragic figure, a free black girl forced into slavery and repeatedly violated by Rufus. She is proud and spirited but ultimately broken by systemic dehumanization. Her suicide reflects the complete erosion of agency that slavery imposes, and her fate haunts Dana. Kevin Franklin. Kevin is a white liberal man who loves Dana, but his experience of the past is drastically different. While he abhors slavery, he often fails to grasp the magnitude of Dana's suffering. He represents the well-meaning white ally, sympathetic but ultimately cushioned by privilege. His long absence from Dana during her extended stay in the past also underscores the emotional chasm that can grow between those who live the trauma and those who merely observe it. Tom and Margaret Whalen. Tom Whalen is a cruel but calculated slaveholder. He is not sadistic for pleasure, but treats brutality as a matter of business and control. Margaret, his wife, is emotionally unstable and racist. Both represent the institutional normalization of slavery, and how it warps personal morality. Themes and analysis. 1. The legacy of slavery. The central theme of Kindred is the legacy of slavery and how it persists in the American psyche. Dana's journeys make the past inescapably real, forcing her, and readers, to confront the visceral truths of what enslaved people endured. The novel emphasizes that slavery is not distant history, its wounds are carried by descendants, both physically and emotionally. 2. Power, domination, and complicity. Butler explores how power operates, not just through overt violence but through economic dependence, fear, and manipulation. Rufus, though he claims to love Alice and Dana, exercises control over them in cruel ways, believing that owning someone is equivalent to caring for them. This warped morality is a byproduct of systemic oppression. Even Dana is forced into moral compromise, helping Rufus, teaching him, lying to protect herself or others. This raises the uncomfortable question: can survival under oppression exist without some form of complicity? 3. Racial and gender identity. Dana's identity as a black woman in 1976 starkly contrasts with her experiences in 19th-century America. The novel critiques both racism and patriarchy, showing how enslaved women were doubly oppressed, used for labor and sexually exploited. Dana's education, freedom, and autonomy are stripped away in the past, highlighting how hard-won those rights are. Even in 1976, Dana and Kevin face prejudice as an interracial couple. The past lingers in the present in more ways than one. 4. Time travel as metaphor. Unlike traditional science fiction, Butler doesn't explain how time travel works in Kindred. It is involuntary, violent, and trauma-triggered. Each jump is disorienting, mirroring how trauma functions in memory, returning unbidden, painful, and with physical consequences. Time travel also collapses the artificial boundary between past and present, demanding that readers recognize continuities in racial injustice. 5. Resistance versus survival. Dana wants to fight slavery, but the reality of the antebellum South renders direct resistance deadly. Instead, she learns to survive, to bend, to endure, echoing the strategies of real-life enslaved people. Butler complicates the idea of the heroic resistor, suggesting that endurance itself can be a radical act. 6. Love and possession. Rufus's love for Alice and Dana is obsessive and controlling. He equates love with ownership. Dana and Kevin's love, by contrast, is founded on mutual respect but strained by their racial experiences and gender roles in the past. Butler uses these contrasting relationships to explore how power distorts intimacy, and how true connection can only exist in equality and freedom. 7. History as a living force. The novel ends with Dana and Kevin researching historical records to confirm the fates of those they knew in the past. Butler implies that history is not merely archived, it is lived, inherited, embodied. Dana's missing arm is the final symbol of this. History maims, even if it doesn't kill. Style and structure. Butler's prose is clear, direct, and emotionally resonant. She avoids ornate language in favor of urgency and realism. The novel is structured as a first-person narrative, anchoring the reader in Dana's thoughts and fears. This narrative choice emphasizes the personal nature of historical trauma. The episodic format of Dana's time travel, marked by escalating danger, creates a rising sense of dread. Each return to the past brings greater suffering and complicates Dana's ability to reconcile her modern ideals with her survival instincts. Conclusion. Kindred is a profound and harrowing novel that refuses to let readers remain detached from history. Octavia Butler challenges the notion of historical distance, showing that slavery's horrors still echo in the present. Through Dana's reluctant time-traveling journey, the novel explores how history shapes identity, relationships, and moral choices. By blending speculative fiction with a slave narrative, Butler creates a powerful literary bridge, one that connects modern readers with their past, forcing them to witness, reflect, and remember. Kindred is not just a story about slavery, it is a story about what it means to survive and what it costs to remember.